and this one is another really interesting one that can be played both competitively and cooperatively. This one takes place in a post-apocalyptic flooded world where humanity is surviving on floating cities. Of course, in order to actually have a sustainable city, you do need to have your own source of power, and players are going to be working together to try and build a power plant in order to power their city. And if playing in the competitive mode, you're going to be gaining a certain amount of points depending on your contributions towards that power plant, in addition to some other sneaky ways where you can also gain victory points. The power plant is going to be represented by this board that's populated with a bunch of different mission cards that will be randomized from game to game. And players will be trying to complete those mission cards by gathering and delivering different resources, but then also gaining points for contributing uranium in the bottom of the track here, or contributing any of your own power that you were able to generate on your own personal ship. And this is a really neat aspect of the game because each player is going to have their own ship that starts with just the single board at the top here, and you'll be able to purchase upgrades as you play the game in order to extend your ship with different modules that add additional locations for you to store resources, store crew, or store different types of abilities. But the fun doesn't stop there because the ship is also amphibious, and you're going to be gathering resources from both above and below the surface, and the game offers a multi-dimensional board where players are going to be navigating their ships and then diving down to the lower board whenever they submerge into the ocean. What's also nice about this is that you don't have to set it up this way if you do find it a little bit more fiddly or difficult to reach around the table. The game was also designed to be played flat, which works just as well, but of course doesn't look nearly as cool. But each player starts the game with a captain card, which is going to give them some sort of special ability, but then also a deck of starter cards, which they're going to be using to take various actions throughout the game. At the start of your turn, you're going to be drawing 4 more cards into your hand, and they're going to be taking actions either from your captain card, from the crew tiles out on your board, or even from completed mission cards. And only after you've done any of those actions will you be able to play the actions from your cards. And what's neat about these cards is they're actually multi-use, and there's 3 different ways that you can use them. You can either use them for the movement amount that's depicted on the top of the card, and there's going to be an amount of movement for if you're on the surface of the ocean, an amount of movement if you are submerged. Whenever you do this, you're going to be moving your ship out on the board up to that many movement points and then gaining the benefit of whatever location you have stopped on. At the start of the game, there's going to be a bunch of different tokens that are put out on the various hexes out on the board. These can do things like gain you additional energy for your ship or resources, or even give you minerals that are required for the power plant mission cards. The minerals are a bit of a special token because you're not able to just take them as soon as you stop on them, and you will have to take a harvest action either from one of the abilities from your shipboard or by using one of your other cards. But whenever you are able to take one of these tokens, you'll get the benefit that's depicted on the top of it, and then you'll also flip it to its opposite side, which will give you some sort of unknown benefit. Not only that, but you also get to keep the token, which is worth a victory point at the end of the game. Of course, rather than movement, you could just spend one of these cards in order to take the associated ability that's outlined on that card, with a lot of these requiring you to spend some amount of energy or resources from your ship. But the final thing you can do with these cards is to just take a basic action, and you can discard any card to be able to do this, and that's going to allow you to either dive, surface, or upgrade your ship, or contribute minerals to one of those mission cards. If you have any cards left over after you've taken all the actions that you're able to, you are allowed to hang on to 2 of those cards and carry them forward into the next round, so there is sometimes a reason not to spend a card if you think it will be more useful in the future. One thing to note about the multi-level board here is that the tokens on the ocean floor normally are a lot nicer than the ones on the surface, but they are also more dangerous to get access to. If you ever start your turn while you're submerged, you're going to have to draw an encounter card, and that's going to require you to discard some amount of resources in order to win against whatever encounter you happen to run into. This will also gain you some sort of benefit, so it's not all bad, but if you're not able to meet the requirements of that encounter, then it's going to have some sort of negative consequence. The game continues like this over a series of rounds with different in-game events causing the time tracker to move forward, and once it reaches the end of the track, it's going to be the player with the most victory points that wins the game. You're going to be gaining 10 victory points for any of the mission cards that you were able to complete, as well as gaining additional victory points for any of your contributed resources to the power plant. Then you'll also gain victory points outlined on any of the cards that you're able to purchase, and finally from the tokens that you were able to collect. In the cooperative version of this game, there's going to be another city that's moving in to try and overtake your city. And they're going to have different units that they're going to be deploying out on the board, occupying different spaces and causing trouble for the players. And of course, the players are going to be trying to complete their power plant before that city catches up with them. But not only that, the players will have to sustain their city along the way, and there's going to be different points in the game where you're going to have to each contribute some amount of resources, and if any player is not able to do that, then that is another way to instantly lose the game. But if you're able to keep that city supplied while also completing that power plant, then the players win the game, and if you are interested to check this one out, I will have it linked in the description down below.